This session we're going to look at mapping the challenges. On Friday we mapped the challenges for the women. So today both the women and the male will be talking about the challenges that we face in the industry. In the first session you met Dr. Sonia Stanley Nayo and Jessica Savro. For this afternoon session, I'm going to introduce you to Chris Cook and Jeremy Harding. Mr. Chris Cook is a co-founder, managing director and business editor of CMU. CMU is service provider to the music industry. And Chris is in the business of teaching, business of music. And that is what we are here today to speak about. On Friday we spoke about the knowledge gap. So we are continuing on capacity building. Chris worked on a number of research and consulting projects and is best good at corporate communication and imparting his knowledge to us all. He has a degree in English and law, and he also blogs and writes a lot about the industry. He has authored the report dissecting the digital dollar for the UK's music managers and has written business courses for the Detroit Institute of Music Education. So Chris will come to us now and impart his knowledge to us, and Jeremy will come after. Jeremy, as we all know, is dear to our hearts. Producer extraordinaire, he has been in the industry for 19 years. He has performed various public speaking forums in music education, and he explores opportunities in creative, technical, academic, and administrative positions. It would be remiss of me to say anything more about Jeremy, because Jeremy, being here in and of itself, speaks for itself. And we all know Jeremy has started the path of Sean Paul's career, one of our love ambassadors, music ambassadors to Jamaica. And we were showing a dance off him before, and we all need to embrace the different genres. I know Dr. Sonia and I spoke about the 8 genres of music that was given to us. So we need to appreciate all forms and to be very cognizant that we are all here for the business of music. And in the business of music, there's different ways of earning. And that's what we are here over the 3 days to speak about. So I just want to welcome Mr. Cook and Mr. Harding to the stand. And after their presentation, we delve into the challenges which we will open the floor and you all can speak about your challenges. And we'll have that one-on-one with you all. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Oh, hello. That is loud, isn't it? Good afternoon. It's very good to meet you all. Thank you very much for having me here today. So yes, I'm just going to say a few things about who I am. A bit of an introduction before I came on stage. I'm going to explain who I am. And then actually, I'm going to be talking quite a lot tomorrow and then a little bit on Wednesday. So I'm going to explain a little bit about what I'm going to be talking about over the next couple of days. And then we'll launch into the second session looking at the challenges that you guys face as music makers or music entrepreneurs here in Jamaica. I'm just interested to know who's in the room in terms of what you do. So can I do a quick show of hands before I introduce myself to find out? So who here is an artist? Who here records and performs music?
I just like doing things like that.
And who here's a songwriter? You can be more than one of these. Who here's a record producer? Okay. Who here Okay, who here works for or runs a music publisher? Okay, and who here is involved in live music, as in putting on shows, running venues, and everything on that side? Okay, that's interesting to know who is in the room. So yes, to introduce myself, my name is Chris. I come from the UK, I'm based in London, and I run a company called CMU, which stands for Complete Music Update, and we call ourselves a service provider to the music industry. This morning was quite a good sort of introduction to what I do, because there's a lot of talking about the need to educate yourself, to know about the business side of music. I like the expression on the previous panel, we talk a lot about DIY, do it yourself. Realistically, you can't do it yourself. Ultimately, you need business partners to work with to help you achieve this, but you should know it yourself. You should have an understanding of every aspect of your business. So when you bring business partners in, you're not just handing over a part of your business and having no idea what is happening to that side of your business. You understand the business side of music. And that's what we do at CMU in the UK. We help music people who use and utilise music, so artists, songwriters, labels, publishers, promoters, people working in the digital space. We help them understand how the business of music works. I can't tell you anything about how to write a song. I don't know how to do that. I can't tell you anything about how to record music. I don't know how to do that. The good news is there are other people in the room who can tell you about that. What I can tell you about is how artists earn what they do is money, and the different revenue streams that are open to artists in 2017 around their songs, their recordings, their performance, their brand, etc. And actually, I've written this pack all about that. So you've all got a copy of this. So we were talking in the previous session about educating yourselves about the business of music. But if you don't like reading, tomorrow I'm going to be talking through everything that's in this pack. So if you come here tomorrow, I'm going to be talking first thing bright and early. I think we start at 9 o'clock. I'm going to be talking about the different kinds of way that artists generate revenue around their music. So we'll talk about recordings and songs and how they differ. We'll talk about artwork and merchandise. We'll talk about live performance. And we'll talk about the different business partners that you may or may not work with in order to build a business around what you do. I'm then going to talk for a couple of hours about copyright. So those of you who said you were songwriters, those of you who put your hands up to say you're a recording artist, whenever you make a recording, you create a copyright. There is a copyright in every recording you've ever made. Every time you write a song, you create a copyright. There is a copyright in every song you've ever written. So welcome to the copyright business. So tomorrow I'm going to tell you a beginner's guide about what copyright is, why it exists, how it works, and how copyright can make money. That will include explaining where Jacap fits into the equation and how it's important to log yourself and every song you write and publish with Jacap and where the money is coming in on that side of copyright. I'm also going to talk a little bit about deals, about record deals and publishing deals, and then on Wednesday I'm going to talk about the streaming market. I've done quite a lot of work on this in the UK. I'm sure you're all aware the story of recorded music over the last 15 years has been the story about the shift from selling plastic discs to selling downloads through iTunes to now streaming music. And the recorded music market is increasingly becoming about streaming music, which worldwide means Spotify and Apple and YouTube. I know you've not got all those services here yet. We can talk tomorrow and Wednesday about how we can persuade them to come here. But obviously YouTube is a very big service, SoundCloud. There is also Deezer, there is also Tidal. And we're going to explain to you which of those services actually have users. Tidal doesn't, Deezer doesn't really, Spotify has lots of users, Apple has lots of users, YouTube has lots and lots of users. So we're going to talk about the digital market on Wednesday and explain how those services pay money to labels and publishers and ultimately to you artists and songwriters every time your music is streamed. And then the final thing I'm going to talk about on Wednesday is, sort of touched upon in the previous panel, the single biggest revolution that the web and the digital and the net has had on music, it isn't Spotify, it isn't YouTube, it isn't iTunes. The single biggest thing that the internet has enabled for you who are artists is that you can now have a direct relationship with your fan base. Prior to the web, most artists had no idea who their fans were. Okay, beyond the occasional fan letter, beyond the front row in the mosh pit of the show, artists didn't know who their fans were. They put their music out there and they hoped some people would buy records, some people would buy tickets, some people might buy t-shirts, but they didn't actually know who was buying their music. In the digital age, you can know who your fans are, and you can have a direct relationship with them online, and that's incredibly powerful. And so we'll talk a little bit about that on Wednesday. How do you capture your fans, and how do you turn that relationship into money? And if it turns out that the fans of your music won't buy records, and they won't buy tickets, and they won't buy t-shirts, what do you do? And the exciting thing is, in the digital age, in the olden days, the CD age, if your fans wouldn't buy records and tickets and t-shirts, you are out of business. There's no way for you to make money out of your music. We're now in an era where you have a connected fan base and you work out what will they spend money on. They'll spend money on something. You need to work out what that is and then create that product. These are all the things I'm going to talk about tomorrow and Wednesday. It's all in this pack here. But as I say, it's quite a long pack. So if you come along, I will talk you through it and you can ask me questions as we go. The last thing I would say before I sort of hand over and we have this general discussion. Earlier on we were talking about the challenges facing artists and songwriters and the people who work with artists and songwriters. And that's what we're going to talk about this afternoon. We're going to get you to talk about the challenges that you face as musicians and music companies. And it's interesting when I talk at events around the world how there are certain things that are very country specific. And it's always fascinating when you come to a place. It's my first time in Jamaica. It's fascinating when you come to a place for the first time that you discover things you've never thought of. That's a specific issue for that place. Last year we did one of these events in Barbados, and it was fascinating talking to the young female singer-songwriters at that event. And one of the problems that they have is that Rihanna sings in a Barbados accent. But those of us in Europe and North America don't know that. We think that that's Rihanna's accent. So when young singer-songwriters in Barbados sing in their own accent, British and American people say, why are you doing a Rihanna impersonation? Stop trying to be Rihanna. And they're not trying to be Rihanna, they're just singing in their natural accent. So that's a very specific issue for a very specific group of songwriters. So certain things are very much regional. But actually there's quite a few challenges you will probably raise today that are exactly the same in the UK music industry, in the US music industry, in Japan, Germany, France, the big music markets and the big music industries. The shift to digital has shaken everything up and there's challenges across the board. And in some ways that's an opportunity. Because the industry is changing, because Jamaica has sort of the makings of a music business, you have people doing music business, but you don't have perhaps the formalities and the institutions that we have in the UK or the US or elsewhere. Actually, that's a huge opportunity. One of the problems we keep coming across in the UK is there's an opportunity there, but then there's all this infrastructure in the way that stops us achieving it. And because the infrastructure isn't there, you could almost get ahead of the big music market. So some challenges are very specific to you guys, some challenges are universal. And it's fascinating to discuss that as we go around the world. So I'm going to stop talking now because I'm going to be doing a lot of talking tomorrow. So hopefully I've not put you all off and you will all join us tomorrow. And as I say, I will talk you through how you make money out of music, how music copyright works, how deals work, record deals, publishing deals. And then on Wednesday, we'll talk about how the streaming services make money and how they share that money with artists and songwriters, or sometimes they don't. We'll talk about that too. And we'll talk about the power of having a direct fan relationship so that you can have a direct conversation with your fan base and how you can turn that. But I'm now going to hand over to Jeremy, who's going to just say a few opening words, and then we'll get everyone else on stage and have our afternoon conversation. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. Afternoon, everybody. Want to take the time to say thanks to Jacap and the Caribbean Development Bank for putting this thing on. When I was, a round of applause. When I was trying to come into the music industry, I went to similar things like this, but not in Jamaica, it's in New York, and all of it. So we should be very thankful that we're actually getting a lot more of these type of conferences put together. A little bit about me, for those who don't know about me, born and raised here. Went over to Canada, Ottawa, Toronto, and Montreal. With the idea of studying chemical engineering. Excuse me. Ended up going to a recording arts school called Trevas Institute, studying recording music production and everything else. And also having a radio show on CKUT 90.3 FM in McGill, Montreal, for 5 years. And also managed and produced back to Jamaica, started with a small studio, did jingles for corporate companies and various media houses, radio and television. Started doing dub plates. I was one of the first guys, if not the first guy, I think, to do my recording system in Jamaica back in the days before Pro Tools. I used to do dub plates and cut them onto, burn them onto CD. And also at that time also was a part of the sound system movement of Renaissance and Syndicate Disco, which was the first true uptown kind of sound system movement that of course birthed the careers of like Milano, Sean Paul, Wayne Marshall, the whole kind of uptown sound system movement. And also I produced, before that I also went to Jamaica School of Music when I was a kid. So I'm a guitarist by trade, a frustrated guitarist I like to call myself. I always thought I was never good enough to actually be a guitarist for life. So I'm a guitarist. I produce, I use computers, I engineer, I mix, I play a little bit of keyboards, I do a little bit of background singing. I managed Sean Paul for close to 14 years. So we're talking about what, from 96, 97 up until 2012 as his manager. Before that, I also produced Who Am I for Being a Man. I produced Log On by Elephant Man. I produced Devante and Tonto Metro. I've mixed records from Movado. I've mixed juggling for the Seiko Productions, Justus, all kinds of people. So I have a very kind of wide scope of my experience in this industry. I can speak on broadcasting because I did radio for 5, 6 years, and I worked as a club disc jockey. I'm an actual musician. Yes, I'm also an artist manager, ex-artist manager. Still are. And also, at the insistence, thankful insistence of Dr. Sonia Nair, I was also drafted last year to teach music business management up at University of West Indies. And again this year and wants to draft me in further years as well. Okay, so that's a little bit of my history. As Chris mentioned, I think tomorrow we're going to actually go through the gamut of things which you see on your timetables. And today, this afternoon, I think what we wanted to do was get a good read from the room and who we're speaking with, because it doesn't make sense. Record company things when everybody in the room is a songwriter. Like you need to know some of it, but we need to kind of touch on what makes sense for the people who are sitting here speaking with. All right? As far as the challenges go, from my perspective, I came at an era when the challenges for me personally were great because of my social background in Jamaica. When I came back to Jamaica to do music, in my opinion, I had gone to the Jamaica School of Music for 5 years, studied music theory, I played an instrument, sang in a choir. I left, gone abroad, worked at radio, played records, did parties. This is for a living, I'm saying. You understand? Like as a disc jockey, playing reggae music, dancehall, hip hop, all kinds of stuff. Came back to Jamaica and wanted to be involved in the record industry. And what I was met with was that the industry is not for me, because the industry is supposed to be something for people who are struggling and trying to get themselves into a better socioeconomic position. And it had nothing to do with talent per se. It was strictly based on the needs of our people to get out of a situation, which was presented to me at the time. So there was a great barrier and a difficulty to prove that I belonged, quote unquote, in the record industry in Jamaica. Of course, the only way to prove that was to just make hit records. And once you started making hit records, then people said, okay, well, you know what? You know how to make records, then you can be in the industry. Challenges at the time included, now, I mean, we have the internet and everybody is all connected and we can all see what everybody's doing. I remember coming back to Jamaica and going to studios like Mixing Lab, and you walk into the room, and of course, this is the days of 24-track tape. So you walk in, a brethren might carry me there, and as you walk into the room, they stop the tape, and stop. And I'm saying, yes, big man, walk on. I'm say, yeah, man, don't know as a young producer and just come back from Canada and, you know, I try to get into the music and thing. I'm say, yeah, man, respect, man, good thing that, man. Yeah, man, we need more young youths in the business, zine. And they stopped, man, the tape is stopped, no music's playing. And you sit around, you're like, yeah, so, don't know, brethren just bring me still just pass through, you know? So I go and say, yeah, man, good thing that, man, yeah, man, you done, yeah, you know? There I want to do some work, you know? And you're like, okay. Tape ain't moving. Until finally you excuse yourself, come out the room, then you hear the tape run again, exactly, and then music starts again. If you didn't own a 24-track tape, you were not a producer. You had to own a tape and have it in the trunk of your car, driving around with it to call yourself a producer. You had to buy the studio time to be a producer. The industry was very closed in that respect. It was not an open door, everybody welcome, everybody come into the business type of thing. The first 3 records I made and produced, and I had my vinyl records, and I used to try and go to radio stations to get them played. And at the then JBC and those places, and you go to the gate, and the security look and say, "My youth, you don't bust music on them places, you know. You can't just bring records here, you know." You're thinking, "Oh, how am I supposed to get this on the radio?" And worse, again, because you don't look like the typical record producer. First time I went to VP Records in New York. First deal that I had, sat down in Christian's office. We're talking. Another Jamaican producer guy, older guy to me, walked in. And Chris said, "Hey man, that you producer, you know? Them German, you know, is him do the Beanie Man sim thing." And the guy turned and looked and said, "What? Them have uptown producer now in a dance hall? Rotted cup, look what the music come to." And this was the impression that was given throughout. So my challenges were different, but challenges nonetheless that were posed to me at the time when I wanted to do it. Now, of course, I had many other options. I'd gone to school. I was at McGill University. I came out after 2 years. My father is in politics. He was Attorney General, Senator Oswald Harding, etc., etc. So a lot of footing in Kingston and in Jamaica to probably have had different careers doing different things. But the drive was always there to do music. It's a passion. It is something that I never once thought about how I was going to earn any money or what would happen to me with my family or what was the social repercussions of being involved in music. Never made a single stitch of difference to me. So something that I've learned along the way is that I was a guitarist, wanted to play in a band. I played some barbecues for schools, wasn't good enough. Those guys in the band went on and formed Blaze Band and a whole bunch of other popular bands out there. The guys that I was with. Then I went away. I wanted to be a disc jockey at a radio show. I was playing on the radio and I was playing in nightclubs. I said, "This is it. I'm going to be a disc jockey and play radio and play nightclubs." After 4 or 5 years of that, wasn't really too working out. Went to a music production school. Then I'm like, okay, I want to be a producer. This is it. I'm going to produce artists, hip-hop and R&B and get them signed to labels. Then that went on, worked a little bit, didn't too work out. Then I came back to Jamaica. Then I started doing jingles. Then we're doing sound systems. Then when I met Sean Paul, he's hanging out at my house every day, as Stephen Newland said. I wasn't trying to be his manager. I had no idea what a music manager was. But we're making records together. He's at the studio. So the phone rings because on your 45, you have your phone number on the record when you had the 45s. So they call and they say, "We'd like to book a show with Sean Paul." And I say, "Okay." And they say, "How much?" So I put on the phone and I say, I said, 2,000? Okay, sounds good. How many tickets? 2 tickets. And then I'll go with him. I did that for about a year. Until it dawned on me, I guess I'm his manager. Because I'm going on the road with him, I'm making arrangements, I'm dealing with the record companies, I'm doing certain things. You know what I'm saying? Fast forward all the way now, through all of those years, up at university teaching. In the music business, the versatility that you need to be able to survive, the amount of skills that you need to have. You can't sit here in a room and say, when Chris asks you what you do, say songwriters, hands go up. Run record label, hands go down. Publishing, hands go down. It should be songwriters, hands up. Record label, hands up. Publishing, hands up. It should be all hands up for all of those skills, for all of those practices that you need to learn to kind of be in this business. You understand? From any and all aspects now. It has provided me with an ability to keep on having a living in music business by doing different things in the industry. And you're not going to learn it all at once, but you got to learn it as you go along and do various things. And there are things you think you might be great at, which you're not particularly suited for, and you're better for other things, for example. You know what I'm saying? Somebody might think they're an artist in this room, maybe they're a better songwriter. Stephen Newland, I've known Stephen from he's this big. He went to school with my little brother. I've never heard him talk at a panel. We've done music together. And I'm listening to him saying, but this guy would have a career after his career as an artist. You understand what I'm saying? I'm hearing Stephen and saying, oh wait, Stephen could be a manager in 10 years from now of a group or something like that. You know what I mean? So you never really too know. So anyway, what we're going to do, we're going to take some questions from the floor about challenges. Between me and Chris, we'll try and feel them and answer them for you. The actual music business stuff, as I said, the next couple of days we're going to cover it and go through it. And yeah, I think that's the idea. Okay? So thanks for having me. Thanks for having us. And we're going to, is there a guy in the crowd with a mic? You're going to walk around, Sir Stuart? And we're going to take some questions, right?
I think we're going to invite some of the morning guests.
Oh, more guests are coming? Okay. Please, guests, come and fill up the seats. Two.
So we're going to ask Jeremy to join the panel. We're going to have Dr. Sanya Nair and Jessica Sabro. Everything is, our focus has been on gender, so equal. The two gentlemen, and we'll have two ladies. Our director, Mr. Stephen Stewart, will be on the floor with the mic. And what we want to do is, this is a learning, these workshops are learning for us. So we want you to ask questions of the panelists or speak your challenges. And from the challenges, we will learn, and that's all we will be able to help you. What we don't want is for persons to stand up and give a speech. Please. We want to respect each other. And what this session is about is your challenges, and the consultants are here to address or speak to or to advise, or most importantly, we are going to be noting those challenges so that for future workshops, we will ensure that we ensure the planning part of it is geared to the solutions for those challenges. Also, we are all here to help each other. So if someone speaks of one challenge and another person has solved that challenge, we want that person to speak out, okay? So the floor is now open to all. Thanks.
Hi. Hi. Hi, I'm Carrie Starr. I started performing pretty young. I went through the whole thing of performing in high school. I started performing with Ashe. I started touring with Roundation from California. Now, what they specialize is roots reggae. Now, my challenge is, how do you break into like the different markets of reggae? For example, I want to go into like a little bit more, experiment more in dancehall. I want to experiment more with different fusions of dancehall and reggae. How do I break into those markets? Meaning that, knowing that most of my fans are already in reggae and roots reggae, how do I make that connection?
Who wants to start?
I think what you have to keep in mind is that the people who follow different genres of music, they don't just follow it as music, they follow it as culture. So people who are into dancehall are into dancehall culture, not just dancehall music. So they're very quick to understand if somebody is not a part of the culture. Lots of people can DJ and go on a mic and, you know what I mean, DJ something, but are you a part of the culture? The same thing with the roots reggae artists. I think they're even more kind of strict in terms of like who they accept to do the kind of music they do, because it's culture. So I think you have to be just very careful to try and understand that you can't just try and hop around in various cultures and figure that you're going to be accepted in each culture. I think you have to kind of make that decision to say, okay, if I'm a roots reggae artist, am I a part of the culture of roots reggae? Do I understand what it is, what it means, what it stands for? Versus, am I a dancehall artist? Is there a little middle ground where I can kind of find that space? I think that's the most important thing to do. I think the audience out there, what's the expression in hip-hop? Real, recognize real, that type of thing, you understand? So they kind of know, like, okay, this person is trying to sing a cultural song, but they're not really into cultural music. I think when you try and kind of figure out what that is, it helps you more to kind of affix yourself in a certain position. As far as the hybrid thing which you're talking about, which I kind of picking up from you, that's a little bit more difficult because it doesn't have a very defined space. You understand? So that's something more musical that you want to probably try and find producers or like-minded individuals who are going to say like, hey, I want to blend this with that to make a certain type of music. In the broader scope of things out there, I mean, I think that's the roots reggae as one style, if you want, one genre, and they'll say dancehall as another style or genre. There's no really middle genre. We like to get excited about like Major Lazer and Diplo and these type of things. But that's not a genre unto itself. Major Lazer is a bigger part of EDM culture. You understand what I'm saying? So even the concerts that Diplo and Major Lazer play, they're the only people there that are mixing reggae with the dance music. Everybody else is just playing straight European dance music throughout the whole, you understand, festival or whatever. So they are not a genre unto themselves, but they just have that little bit of flavor. But I think for you as an artist to kind of make that decision, like what culture is true to you? I've produced culture records on One Drop Rhythms, but it's not really me. I'm more a dancehall producer, 100%. You understand? And so I think even the cultural artists who I work with recognize that, yeah man, Jeremy's a talented guy and he has made a couple One Drop Rhythms and stuff, but he's not really a cultural music guy. You understand? So I think when you figure that out for yourself and you present yourself to the whichever audience, I think you'll have a better chance of success of kind of sticking to one or the other.
I'm going to make a very quick point and I'm going to ask you a question, if that's all right. Related, I don't know, I have no particular specialist knowledge of the crossover between the genres you're referring to, but my general observation would be if you have an existing audience for the music you're making, but you have an urge to go into a different creative direction, I suppose there's two sides to that, which is A, creatively you can do whatever you like, but you might lose your audience. I mean, it's in the same way that as an artist, if you want to be played on the radio, you have to listen to the radio and write music that is going to be played on the radio. Radio has a very firm idea on what music it plays. Now, artistically, that may be wrong for you, and therefore you do what you want, but do so realizing you may not get played on the radio because of the artistic decisions you're making. The other thing I was going to say was, my thinking is if you have an existing audience and you want to experiment artistically, creatively, is doing that, have one track that is very different and perform it at your shows and see what response you get. That's live interactive feedback, isn't it? If your audience clearly are looking at you in a, I've no idea what's going on here, okay, it might take time to introduce it to them, but if immediately they're like, wow, this is a great new song, then that's immediate feedback, isn't it? And I suppose online, one of the conversations I have when I do panels, particularly with young artists back in the UK, is there's this question, in the SoundCloud age, do you have SoundCloud accounts, YouTube accounts? Obviously, you can make a track and put it online immediately, can't you? But we were talking earlier about being a perfectionist and getting the absolute best recording. And when I talk to artists and producers in the UK, there's a real division of opinion. Some say, no, only put your really good tracks online. Wait until you do the effort, get some mastering, only put the best of your work online. But I have some artists and producers who say the exact opposite, which is no, do a demo, put it on YouTube, label it as demo, make it really clear that this is an experimentation, and then say to your fans, I'm experimenting here, what do you think? Tell me, feedback, give me the comments. And so then again, you're getting, rather than doing a 12-track super expensive album, putting it out and finding out that nobody's interested, is sort of doing it a track at a time, whether that's live or online, and getting that feedback. The question I was going to ask, I don't know if any of you, in terms of reggae versus dancehall versus dub versus the other 5 genres, which I didn't write down earlier when you were listing them out, once you go global, are there certain countries where reggae in its sort of classic form goes down particularly well, and then there are other markets where dancehall, by picking which of those genres you sort of position yourself in, does that have an impact in which countries you're likely to build an audience?
Actually,
you're
no.
Saying yes. Oh, you're saying no.
No, I don't see. You all can guide me here, but this is my experience traveling the world. Reggae is appreciated globally. There are certain markets that are huge, so Japan, New Zealand, places like France, Germany. So Europe, United States, There are certain large markets, but everywhere on the planet, people have heard of reggae. The question now, I think we have to disaggregate what we mean by market. Is it the market that's going to buy your music, or is it the market that's going to appreciate and listen to your music and consume it in ways that might not even look like a record sale then? But reggae, I mean, so for example, I am presently mapping the global, the geography and economy of reggae festivals. And I have reggae festivals listed on every continent. So to talk about reggae as a market, or a market for reggae, you are literally looking at the globe. But of course, you're going to now enter that globe through perhaps the Jamaican diaspora, right? And there are certain established markets that you can penetrate based on the touring cycles and the touring calendar. So that's kind of what I would say to that. I don't know if I've answered your question, Chris. Yeah. I wanted to just add a little bit to the question that was asked earlier. And now I think I've totally forgotten what I was going to say. But, oh yeah, I wanted to riff off something that Jeremy said in response to your question. It's very important not to be locked into any one thing if you are a creative spirit. But guess what? You see, if you haven't really established yourself in that one thing that you're good at, for the purposes of your fans, for the purpose of building a career, of solidifying a career, you have to be consistent at defining yourself. And you know how I really solidify that in my mind? Talking to Jeremy about somebody I was trying to have him produce for. And he's like, but where does she fit if she's this hybrid thing? Because you have to think about the market. You have to then think about the fans. Who are the people that are going to actually appreciate your music? And I think Chris's response was really spot on, because you can, in fact, with the technology available to us today, interact with your audience. You can interact with your fans. You can interact with your potential fans. You can interact with a niche market that you might not even have visualized before. So, there are really creative ways of doing that. Any other questions?
Question here. Yeah. Good afternoon to the panel on the floor. Yeah, I want to ask the question, how you go about setting up publishing? Publishing? Yeah. Chris, publishing question?
What's the specific question?
How do you go about publishing?
How am I?
How do you go about publishing? How does anyone go about publishing? Is that your question, sir?
Yes.
It depends what you mean by publishing, doesn't it? I mean, as far as copyright law is concerned, the minute a song is out there, it has been published. If you write a song, a copyright exists in that song. There's a little bit of copyright registration in the awkward United States, but let's not think about that for the time being. In most of the world, the minute you write a song, a copyright exists, and it belongs to whoever wrote the song. So therefore, question number one is, well, who wrote the song? So if 5 of you go into a room and create a song, you co-own the copyright. So somebody somewhere needs to have a conversation about how that copyright is being shared. The next stage then, I suppose, is if you've not done a deal with somebody who calls themselves a publisher, then you retain the rights, the copyright is yours, and you're what I would call a self-published songwriter or self-published composer. You are all, as Jeremy said earlier, at that point you are both songwriter and publisher. And in that scenario, the first thing you need to do is join Jacap and log both you and your works, so that all the obvious places that your music will make money, radio, live performance, etc., the system will collect that money. In terms of, do you work with a publisher? Do you work with somebody who calls themselves a publisher? Well, it depends what you need. What do you need? And you could be a self-published songwriter, join a collecting society, join Jacap, allow Jacap to represent you globally, and then just let the money flow in. However, realistically, you won't get all of the money. Okay, if you just leave it to the system, some money will come in, but not all of the money. So actually, the music publishing industry, the music publishing sector, is a spreadsheet business. They don't like admitting that. Music publishers like to talk about A&R and songwriter camps and developing artists, and that is something good publishers do. But ultimately, they're spreadsheet businesses. Often songs earn fraction of a cent at a time. It's fractions of a cent that over the years becomes lots of money. And so it's going out and getting every single cent that you are due. And that's what a good publisher does. They do the administration. So you can self-publish. You can log your songs with your collecting society. They are published. You are a publisher. But do you want the services of somebody to do the administration, to go out and get every single penny? And then once you have a publisher, they may do A&R, they may do artist development, they may put you with other songwriters, they may find you artists to collaborate with, they may get you syncs, they may get your music synchronized into movies or adverts or TV and generate more income, and a good publisher would do that. But of course, the minute you start working with a publisher, they take a cut of the money. So that's the decision you have to make is, if I do a deal with a publisher, well, first of all, what's the deal? I don't know what it's like in Europe. The starting point with a publishing deal is that the publisher would take no more than 50%, and they would probably take less than that. Usually in Europe, publishing deals, the songwriter gets more of the money. That said, if the publisher advances you 20 grand, the publisher takes back their 20 grand and then starts sharing the money with you. But let's say they're taking a 40% cut of the money. Well, you have to say to yourself, is the admin work they're doing, is the songwriter camps they're organizing, is the fact that they're getting me syncs, is that worth 40% of my money or not? And that's a business decision to make. But I think in terms of the formalities, it's just getting into the habit. Every time you write a song, you create a copyright. That copyright can only earn money if you log it into the system. So you decide between you and your co-writers what the split is, you log that into the Jacap database, or other collecting societies are available, but here, you join the local one, log into the local system, and then you are published. And then in terms of do you do a publishing deal, well, that's what can a publisher offer you in return for taking 40% of the money. Does that answer the question? Yeah.
Just to quickly add on to that, one of the things that we covered on Friday's workshop was the very basic step you can take to figuring out those splits, and that's creating a split sheet. Very simple one-page document that says, this is what I own, the percentage, my address, my signature, and the same thing for all of your co-writers. That's the very basic step you can take, and in most cases nowadays, a lot of the digital services will require that from you. If you're self-publishing, there are a number of tools you can use to help with the administrative side of it. I'm sure you guys will probably cover like tools and platforms and things like that in the coming workshops. And then there's also what we have in the States, an admin deal. So it's not so much a co-pub deal, it's an admin where they're taking less than the 50%. In some cases, I think it's now between 10 and 15%. And the administrators just help you do all the back-end paperwork for your local society around the world. And now they have other functions too, like submitting your songs for sync. So that's definitely something else for you guys to look into.
I think we're going to try and cover it in the next, is it tomorrow or next day? Right, so I think if you come back, I should hope that you're coming back tomorrow, right? And we can go in-depth on the whole publishing thing and what it really means and where the money is earned and etc. The basic thing is, though, you have to be a member of a Jacap or a ASCAP or a BMI, see some collection agency, and you have to be able to register the works, right? So if I build the whole rhythm and you wrote all the lyrics, 50% me, 50% you. If you and him write lyrics together, you work it out 25, I do the music. If it's for me, etc. Everybody needs to decide that, be a member of a society, get the stuff registered, just keep registering the catalog. Because the day that you try to sign to a publisher, whether it's an admin deal or a big publishing deal, or you want somebody to collect your publishing, they're going to say, where's your catalog? You follow what I'm saying? So you need to be able to say, oh, here's my catalog. There's 50 songs, which I have 100 songs. They're all already registered with a Jacap, etc. You can't just be like, I want a publishing deal. I'm a musician, and I made some records, and I put it on SoundCloud or YouTube or what. You understand what I'm saying? So the basic part is, that's why you're here, Jacap, see there? So, you understand? But we'll get into more depth tomorrow.
Just very quickly, we're going to talk a lot more about that tomorrow, as we've said. But I suppose that the one takeaway is that point of whenever you co-write, is having the conversation about what the splits are and then writing it down. Because it's amazing how 4 of you go into a room, 2 of you write a song, you think, oh, the other two can't possibly think that they co-wrote this song. They leave the room thinking that they've got a quarter of that copyright. So it's much better to have that conversation while your song is worthless in financial terms than it is when it turns out your song's worth $1 million. So have the agreement and write it down.
Yeah, good day. My name is Stanford L. Christopher McPherson. I'm the owner of Jacap Artist Promotion. I'm having a problem or situation pertaining to funding, and also when you bring in the equipment, the amount of taxes you pay, might as well you buy it, or you'll get somebody to sell it here, which is some mediocre equipment, and also about airplay. I'm asking how you guys overcome these issues pertaining to those three facts, and how can you survive in the music if you're paying too much on those things?
So were there three challenges there? There was funding was one challenge.
Funding.
Airplay was another challenge.
Equipment and taxes.
Importation.
And taxing on input. So three challenges there, two of which are universal global challenges that musicians will tell you everywhere, funding and airplay. And the taxation thing, I imagine, is a very specific issue to hear.
Jeremy, you want to?
I don't know where the current documentation is on the importation thing. I'd done it some years ago, and at the time, it was done through Jampro. And they have something which, I don't know if it still exists, called Tools of Culture? Tools of Trade. Right. Right, Tools of Trade. Where basically they have like, I don't think their list was the most up-to-date thing, but they had like a list of things to say which qualified as tools of trade. For example, like amplifiers and speaker box. Oh, you have it?
Yeah, but I'm saying, all right.
Let me see what, can I see it? What is on it now?
I'm a producer, right, according to them, right? But I'm still paying all those taxes.
Oh,
I'm a producer.
Oh, this is your thing, but this is not the...
Yeah, what I'm saying,
One second.
I'm a producer according
Right.
to them, right? And if my artist needs certain equipment to practice now,
Right.
and I have to send for it through emergency ways, and
Right.
they knew that I'm the one who sent for it, when it comes, I still have to pay at least what the equipment was bought
So
for.
watch it now. And if I said it was a perfect system, because I've struggled with it too. But I know they had a system where they had a list of equipment, which they said qualified as tools of trade. And you had to go and you had to submit what is it you're trying to bring in, and you'd eventually get, and you have to give them a TCC license, which is very important, right? To show that you're up to date with your taxes for your company. And then you would get a waiver, which says that you're allowed to bring in 1 drum kit, 2 keyboard, 1 guitar, blah, blah, etc., etc. Again, not telling that it's perfect. But that system was there. Now, the problem with the system is, it is an outdated system. I've had producers, even Clevie, from Steel and Clevie Brown, tell me that there's a waiver on, for example, the drum set, but not on drumsticks. You understand? And weird things like that. And nowadays, when we're in this digital era, maybe I'm not bringing a drum set anymore. I might be bringing in a hard drive with software. The hard drive might be worth over $1,000 US. That has happened to me. I've brought in a hard drive in my backpack, come through the airport, search the bag, and it has the logo of the music company on the hard drive. And they said, what is this? I said, no, it's software of a computer. And I said, no, man, no, man. Type. $1,000 duty. Big argument with them. I'm trying to explain to them that it's music software, and they said it doesn't qualify. So there are many issues with it. It's not updated to what we now need as tools of trade. You understand what I'm saying? So I don't know. That is something that needs to be tackled on a bigger level through Jump. That's a challenge now that we all do face, to be quite honest with you. They have sort of a little kind of system that kind of sort of work. Definitely doesn't work in your emergency situation though. It's something which should take time and you have to wait months and bring it. No, what I mean, in other words, like, it's not like you can get it this week is what I'm saying to you. You have to go.
All right, what I did, I already give them in advance that I'm going to get certain equipment from
Right.
artists to practice.
Jampro you went to?
Ministry of Tourism and Entertainment and Culture, Jampro,
Right.
Jams, Jacap, all of them. I've been paying everything
Right.
because I'm trying to do this because of my cousin that died. I'm trying to bring on a tradition of his. But anyway, I got through all of that. Them say, all right, when you come in, you're just paying tax, GCT. That's all you're going to pay.
Right.
When it coming in, and I'm sending all the paperwork, it's coming. The persons who I'm sending the paperwork to Ministry of Finance or Ministry of Tourism and Entertainment, they're not answering me back. And then when you go down to customs now, customs is charging you more than what you pay for the equipment or the same what you pay for the equipment.
Yeah.
It don't make no sense.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to count on a race, but if a different race of people can bring in equipment to fix roads or drill something or do some utility products, and they're not paying no tax, and I'm living here and paying tax, it don't make no sense.
It's an issue. It's something that we need to face.
Right, but it sounds to me like there is some of the process, some parts of the process must be missing in the thing. I'm not sure if I'm hearing correctly, sir. But things like the TCC license and all of these things, I don't know if you've done all of that, you're saying. So let me tell you what you need to do. You need to stalk the ministry. Right, so tomorrow morning, or, let's say Thursday morning, because I'm somebody, my disposition in the world is that I must get everything I need done. A guy or a girl mustn't stop me from getting what I need done. So if it means that you have to stalk the ministry on Thursday morning after this workshop finished, because I know you're going to be here with us for the 3 days, it means that's what you have to do, all right? So there's another challenge. No, he said there were 3 challenges. One is funding.
Payola, and
one is the importation, and
funding,
the other.
because the bank is not going to give you enough, because they want to see a monthly statement. If I'm a producer and I have even 80 artists, if the artist is not bringing enough money to pay the bills plus for get the extra money, the bank is not going to fund you. And I'm not going to use my house as no collateral to make the bank come and get it either.
Right, so let me address that one. I was trying to remember them so I could address them. One of the things is the Entertainment Advisory Board out of the same Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment and Sport is trying to articulate to banks that there can be, in fact, some ways in which people who are creative workers are allowed loans inside of banks. Let me tell you, this is like, this morning, for those who heard me speaking, one of the challenges we have in this country is even the perception of the music as a business, the perception of the music as people who are building careers and people of integrity who can make money and pay back money to banks when they get loans, right? That is a huge, big challenge. So we at the ministry, I don't work directly with the ministry, but I happen to sit on the Entertainment Advisory Board. We are trying to help to pave the way for people who are creative workers to get loans through banks. So that is something that is being worked on. I don't think it's going to be solved tomorrow, but it's a process. And it is something, listen, is only 60 years or 70 years of indigenous music in Jamaica we have now. That is no time compared to 200 years. You understand? So we have to give ourselves time. Many of us were busy living and loving the music and making the music and not thinking about the business of it. Now we come to the point where we have to talk about the business of it. And the people who we have to get on board as well. One of the things we said was that we needed to have like a once a month presentation. We go to this bank, go to the next bank the next month, and just start them in a way that I tell you must start the ministry. We have to begin to take on board as a sector the things that are unique to us that we need to solve and push to have them solved. So that it mightn't be solved for you, but it might be solved for your children and your children's children.
And then earplay, that's the next.
Lord have mercy.
Thing that I really want to affect.
I'm going to try and tackle that one
all
for
right.
you, correct?
I just really want to understand it, really. Yeah, because it don't make sense. I'm going to pay 80,000 for a music to play 2 weeks. And the artist and me not going to make not even 10,000.
All right, let me try my best with this Payola business now, okay? First of all, one thing I think that the room need to understand, everybody need to understand, radio does not exist to play music. And we repeat that. Radio does not exist to play your music or my music. Radio exists to play ads and collect ad revenue. Some of them do it by playing music. Some of them do it by doing sports. Some of them do it by doing talk shows. You understand what I'm saying to you? News, radio, their job is not to play our music. Their job is to make ad revenue, period. So the first thing we need to understand is that They're not there as a servant to us, and we're going to get annoyed and pissed off and angry because they're not playing our music, and they're supposed to play the music, and it's a radio station, and I make a music and I'm not hearing it. It is not their job. Ad revenue. Now, they play certain kinds of music based on the fact of whether or not it's going to generate ad revenue. As Chris said, radio sounds a certain way and plays things in a certain way to generate ad revenue. When you're outside of Jamaica and you're doing stuff in the United States, for example, if you have a reggae song or art you're trying to break, the radio is very segmented into like, this is adult contemporary radio, this is rhythm crossover, this is urban radio, this is pop radio. And if you have a song by, name whichever artist, a Rasta artist out of Jamaica, it's not going to play on pop radio ever in the United States. Because that audience that radio station speaks to by selling those ads, they don't listen to that music. It doesn't sell ads, period. You understand? So Justin Bieber plays on pop radio. Jacap will never play on pop radio, ever. He's going to play on urban radio. And he might play on rhythm crossover radio. Very specific, because they're going to tell you that our audience, when you listen to the radio, you can even hear it here in Jamaica too as well. If you turn on Zip, what kind of ads you hear on Zip, right? Party ads, rum bar, chug it, this dance, this, exactly, that's what you hear on Zip. Go on KLS, what kind of ads you hear? Scotiabank, investments, and planning for your future, Guardian Life, etc., because they're targeting different audiences, right? So that's the first thing to understand. The job is not to play your music, they're selling ads. So depending on what you are trying to do, you're trying to say, what does a radio sound like with the music I make to me to target that radio, first of all. Okay, so that's the first thing, 1. 2, Payola, you're never going to get rid of Payola. I'll explain to you why you're not going to get rid of Payola. If you're in the US and you want to promote a record, you have record promotion companies that you pay money to promote records. Correct? So, you have a new song, a new artist, any of these pop R&B records that you guys know, anything out in the United States, all of these records go through record promotion companies. Now, if I am representing the artist, or the record label, sorry, and Nathan right here is the radio station. If I give him the record and say, here's some money and play it, that is Payola. Okay? Chris has a company called Chris Cook Radio Promotion. If I give Chris the record and the money, then it's not Payola. I don't know what his relationship is with Nathan. He's a record promotions company. Whatever he does, he does. I never paid that man to play my record. I paid this man for record company, for record promotion services. You follow what I'm saying? Music video stations works exactly the same way. Same thing, video promotion budget. What does that mean? The company that you have to pay so that they have to go to the BETs and the MTVs and the VH1s to play the record. Right? And when I was knee-deep in management business with Sean, we knew the figures. They were black and white. Same thing. You want 8 spins a week on BET, whatever, and you want on the countdown, etc. That's $20,000 for the first 3 weeks, etc., etc. It's like a system. Yeah, pretty much. Understand? So it exists. Now, you have other firms in Jamaica. Payola, yes, you have the guys that just want the straight cash. But you also have, like, the artists and the management are going to hire DJ so-and-so to come on the road to play for the artists. Is that Payola? Or you think that's just doing them a favor? One hand scratching the other. What's different? Is it Payola? But you understand what I'm saying, though? So a guy will say, listen, yeah, man, we're going to carry DJ, I don't want to call nobody name, from whatever station and then go on the road and spin for my artist. So it's not directly cash that you're giving them. Is it Payola or not? You follow what I'm saying? What do we do with our journalists here? Same thing. We'll carry journalists to go to shows, get them visa, they're going to come on and write up. So-and-so, this mash up the show, greatest performance ever, blah, 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 and write all of this stuff in the paper. You buy them a ticket, you carry them with you. They're your publicists. They're your publicists, but them work for Star, Observer, Gleaner, wherever. You call it Payola too?
Because you just said,
right.
If you have direct contact.
No, I never paid the Gleaner, you know.
I never say you will.
Right.
You gave the example.
Right.
That you have direct contact
Yeah.
with this job or the newspaper or so. That's
right.
I understand your point with marketing company. You have a marketing company or
But you see the difference though, because by definition it means I paid you money to play the record. I brought you on tour to DJ for my artists. I understand. I agree with you now, but I'm trying to let people understand. You understand? You know, it's the way that it goes. You have a selector that play at Wet Sundays or whatever, and you're an artist, and you come off of the road and you come link them back and say, boy, all this, iPhone 7. You don't know, respect, you know, because you're a good youth and love how you're working. And so you say, artists, respect my artists. It's a gift. Is it Payola? You understand what I'm saying to you? So it's a tricky relationship business that you're going to have in this industry all the time. When you see these guys, the shows like Hot 97, Summer Jam, and all those things. Hot 97 in New York, which most of you should be familiar with, right, will have their Summer Jam series. All these stations have it, our yearly show. So the Jamaican acts, what they do is say, we're doing Summer Jam this year, and we'll have on this hip-hop artist and that one. We want to get, you know, Mavado, we want Popcorn, we want this man and that man and that man. They're flying you up there to do the show for free. You're doing the show free for the radio station. In exchange, they're going to put your record into rotation for the 3 months leading up to the show. You get me? And they sell tickets at the show and make money, hand over fist. All the artists work for free. Radio station plays their records on the lead up to it to get some spins out of it. Is it Payola? I don't know. So what are we saying then? Because you're giving up your show money, you follow what I'm saying, in exchange for spins at radio.
But can I just add a little bit to that though? Jeremy's point is let us not get it lost. The point is a point about professionalism and strategy. And if you want to get ahead in life, you know, Gussie Clark is, I don't know if Gussie is here now, but Gussie is the one that spoke to me recently about how it is. Every time he's doing something, he's going to do it differently. There has to be something distinctive about what he's doing. And it's the same thing when you are trying to build a relationship with a radio station, a lawyer, a manager. It's the same thing. It cannot be that you're going to do this in a way that is not professional. And you have to find, whether it is legal terms, entertainment terms, whatever it is, to figure out how it is you're not going to, one, break the law, two, do something differently. You're going to do it differently. It can't be Payola. But it might just strategically be a line that you can draw between Payola and, what is the next word? Promotion. Okay? Two P words. It's just a thin line. But in law, you can defend promotion. You cannot defend Payola. That's the point. Don't make it miss you.
I just want to add, and then we'll come to you because you've been waiting very patiently with your question. But just one other thing, I have some good news and then some bad news. So the good news first. In the UK, actually, in radio, there isn't really payola in the sense of money being handed over, even via third party. It doesn't really happen. That said, the people who have PR representation, or what in the UK we would call a plugger, radio people have a finite amount of hours in the week, and there are thousands and thousands and thousands of new tracks getting into the system every week. They don't have time to listen to them. So what they do is they have a meeting with all the PR people, and they listen to those people's music, and that's what they program. So although money isn't being handed over the table, it's all about having the $2,000 to pay a PR person, a promoter, gets you to the front of the queue, and that's sort of just life. So in the UK, there isn't really a culture of payola in radio, yet if I was talking to a room full of artists like yourselves in the UK, they would also be angry about radio, saying we never get played on the radio because we can't afford PR people, so we can't get in front of the people. So even though we don't really have a culture of payola in the UK, we have the same problem that they have very narrow playlists. We're very lucky in the UK that we have the state-owned BBC who go above and beyond in championing new music. And the only place you will find reggae on British radio is on the BBC. But beyond the BBC, the commercial stations have very narrow music policies, and if you don't happen to make music within those music policies, even if you did have $5,000 to pay a PR person,
you wouldn't get airplay. I said I had some good news. The good news is, I don't know what it's like here, but it's certainly like this in the UK, and I would suspect it's probably becoming like that in lots of other places too. If your fans are 14 years old, now they're probably not, okay, but they will be soon, because 14-year-olds are going to become 20-year-olds quite soon. In the UK, if you are making music for teenagers, teenagers are not listening to the radio. That's correct. so if your fans are young, they're not listening to the radio, so who cares about the radio? They are on YouTube. That is where they are discovering music. They're on YouTube. And there is no Payola on YouTube. The bad news is Facebook is now competing with YouTube. So video consumption is going to shift over to Facebook. And once you're on Facebook, Facebook charge you to push your videos into your own fans' feeds. So they would call that advertising. You might want to say that that's just a new form of Payola. But I would say, you know, if radio stations won't play your music, are your fans even listening to the radio? Because if they're not, then why bother?
So, Itoso, to answer your question, you really don't want to be focused on radio play. That's just a Jamaican audience, by the way. And it's just only a certain demographic in Jamaica that's listening to radio.
Let me add this too as well. Remember this too as well, you know. Somebody who's working at the radio station, they're looking at a long-term relationship with an artist or with a producer. They're going to want to know, like, all right, you're the producer, you have a song by your artist. They want to know about, what are you actually doing with this artist? Where are you going with the artist? What's the program with them? What are you trying to push them into? Where is the growth? You want us to invest time into your artist to break this artist with you as a radio station. There has to be that level of interest there for them as well to kind of say this makes sense for us to go. It cannot just be like a guy that's walking and say, well, I have a song to play. A song by who? Well, it's my artist. The artist, where they live? Well, country. And where? But are they doing music full time? Well, no, but him have a bad voice, so we just record a tune. You don't know. It's like, but you really want me to play this on the radio? This is not something I can invest my time and energy. There's no movement behind the artist. Is there social media? Are they doing concerts? Are they doing live shows, etc.? You follow what I'm saying? So you think you need to kind of show that to them as well. And you have to just build the relationships. That's the best way I can tell you, you know. You cannot get every single radio disc jockey to like you or like your music. Impossible. You have to find 1, 2, 3 of them that understand what you're doing. You sit down with them, show them what you're trying to do, and say, all right, we're going to try and work with your program. Now, I can't guarantee you're not going to ask for something. Maybe it's not cash money up front. Maybe it's services, maybe it's other things which you can do for them. You follow what I'm saying? Fortunately for me, like, I have a studio, I can mix records, I can make rhythms. There's other things you can do. You have to go in your pocket. I don't believe in that money business. I've never done that. Give a man cash, ever. I will never, ever do that. I'll have a relationship with somebody, no problem. You need some studio time, you need to cut some jingles. Yeah, them, something there. You know what I'm saying? So you have to develop your kind of relationships. There's no going around it. Because the radio guy, first of all, you guys understand how much they get paid at a radio station? They get nothing, you know. They get like $3,500 hour or something like that, you know, for a show, you know, a radio disc jockey, you know. You understand what I'm saying? They make nothing. Which US? Jamaican dollars is what they're making at the radio stations. The disc jockeys make money playing on the road to play parties, you follow what I'm saying, and clubs, and the same quote-unquote payola that we're talking about, and those things. That's how they make money, or to fly with the artists and work with them. So this guy that is sitting down at a Zip FM or RJ or wherever, and you want, yo, you know, play my record star, the man is earning maybe $4,000 for his little 1 hour show. You understand? And his whole room is coming to him to play music. Imagine how they feel. And then they play the song bus, and you ask get a visa, you fly, you do a show, and you make 3,000 US, and in 6 months you drive Bimo. And you ask to drive a Bimo. You see the reality, and the radio disc jockey sitting there saying, wow, as me play all the early records, them, whatever. You understand what I'm saying? But is the mentality, well, no, I was not disc jockey here. I was in college, so it was free anyway. But I'm just trying to show you there's a mentality surrounding it from their position as well. You understand? Anyway, next. Thank you so much for waiting.
So on the heels of that, are there any representatives of the tax authorities in the room? I'm just curious. No, just thinking that there are a lot of little areas that need to be filled. But just in terms of referencing who's in the room.
Mike, put the mic up to him.
Yeah, okay then. It is working. I am a lawyer, and I've been working in film for the past almost 10 years. In fact, I worked in hardcore film production. Now that I'm back home, I am increasingly interfacing with the wider creative industries, and I'm actually trying to build a niche to facilitate crossover, so crossover from genre as well as crossover in different mediums. And I'm really happy that you've given us the opportunity to sort of put out a little wish list. So I'd like you to talk a little bit about, you know, the interface between music and film and those revenue streams that sometimes are lost in translation. Just to say, my dad has been a musician all his life. And from he was 17 until now, he's over 70. Don't tell anybody, I told you. But the reality is that his big hit came in his mid-career. And then out of the blue the other day, a film producer picked up one of his songs that was done in the 70s. And it featured in Moonlight. I don't know if any of you have seen that film. It was the opening, the song for the opening credits in Moonlight. And that has come out of the blue. You know, it wasn't something he anticipated. It's called Every Nigga is a Star. And, you know, again, it's just reminded me as I'm in the process of organizing his catalog, how important it is to have your stuff out there accessible. I was saying to Herbie Miller that I'm looking for a couple of vintage artists or artists who have had a long time in the business, who are interested in having their catalogs organized. I'm thinking of maybe a half a dozen people, and I'm looking to do this, you know, primarily pro bono. I'm actually in the process of seeking some funding to help to, offset some of the costs. But if anybody in the room is interested, you can talk to me afterwards. My name is Abigail Gardiner.
Wonderful solution there. Thank you very, very much for that. Another question over there?
You want to talk a little bit about the sync? Obviously, sync's your background of how that process works.
Sure. So I specialized in sync for a little less than a decade. And I co-founded my first sync licensing company when I was 18. Itty bitty little brown girl just trying to make it. So one, I would love to offer advice and guidance whenever you need it to even build that and the infrastructure. And so what happens is with sync is that it is entirely a numbers game. So there's so many people all over the world that are pushing and plugging music, and what really matters are these two things. One, is the music you're pushing quality? Is it authentic? Because that's really important. I mentioned earlier this morning when I was supervising, if I needed a reggae track, I would only my options were go to VP, which is going to be really expensive, or go to a random guy in his basement to just like create a fake reggae track for a couple $100, which you never want to do. But because, you know, the industries across the world don't know who to contact, that's their alternatives. Second thing is having all the legal clearances done. So we call it one-stop shop licensing, where the master side is clear, the sound recording, and the composition, the publishing side, is cleared as well, 100%. Because then I can easily just deal with you, do a contract with you, get all the licenses I need, 1, 2, 3 done, instead of me having to go negotiate with 3 publishers back there, 3 writers over there, a couple of guys who own the sound recording over there. I can just deal with you. And the revenue that comes back from that is significant because you're getting the upfront licensing fee for both the master and the composition, or if it's one stop, I'm just paying you the one fee. And then once that song is placed into that film, that TV show, that video game, whatever medium it is, then royalties are generated, and that's what Jacap is going to collect for you. And the money you get on the royalty side of it is most likely more than what you're going to get for the upfront fee. And it's evergreen. It keeps going as long as those things are airing on TV. But that's not the only medium. Now sync licensing is also YouTube videos, Facebook videos, anything that has to do with user-generated video. And that's a growing market. So at Rumblefish, where I worked, on any given day, we were doing 100,000 licenses of UGC. So that's how big that market's getting.
And then just one last thing I would add in terms of where film and music collides. Beyond sync's just sort of for synchronization, when we synchronize music to video. But beyond sync, if you look at the artists who are gaining traction through YouTube, so pitching at that younger demographic, they're making as much video as they are music. And all the stats suggest to build an audience on YouTube, you need to be publishing at least once a week. That's how you build attraction. Now, realistically, you guys can't write a brilliant song once a week. I think there are very few artists and songwriters in history who could realistically have done a great new song every week. So clearly, you can't be putting out a track a week. These guys, obviously, you guys can do a track a week. All right, then. One song a week? One song a week. Easy. So the question is, what else can you do? What other video content could you be creating to keep your audience engaged? And so I think increasingly as musicians, you've got to think visual as well as audio and do interesting, quirky stuff online with your visuals, photography and videos as well as making the music.
Oh, and just to note on that, the royalties that you get from video, one side is for the actual video itself, which is one copyright, then the other side is going to be for the composition, and then the other one will be for the actual sound recording. So if you're not doing that, you're actually giving up maybe 3 revenue streams. So for every video you create, don't just put it up on YouTube, put it up on Facebook, Vimeo, Dailymotion, Flip, whatever. Any platform you can find, get it all out there, because there's so much money in content creation.
Yeah. Question.
Oh. Do you want figures? Is that what you just said? Yeah. I've seen figures, small licenses, maybe advance of like $2,000 for a small license somewhere. The video games we spoke about, you guys know, I don't know if you know, like Grand Theft Auto and those video games. There's a radio station when you drive the car and you can switch to different stations, and there's like a reggae station. We've had Sean Paul, Marshall, Elephant, Junior Gang, all those guys, Protege. Those were about 15 grand US per sync. I've done, well, in the height of Sean Paul thing with Big Hit Records, we've done like Entourage on HBO, the TV show, like a scene in the car driving 15 seconds, maybe $120,000. Will and Grace, yeah, upfront money. Will and Grace TV show. But mind you, this was big Sean Paul Records, but I'm trying to show you the kind of money that is there in sync fees, definitely. So like off of that one song, you could make $200,000 just to use in 15 seconds of a show or a movie or whatever. But even on the smaller level, you're still talking like a couple grand a use. Remember, no, you'll have people that need like, we need a reggae track for this scene. Mm-hmm. It don't necessarily mean we need a big reggae star. They just want a track that fits it. You follow what I'm saying? And they will pay sync fees just for usage of that. Or as you said, you don't want to go and create a fake one.
We don't want basement guy. I don't want basement guy for anything ever at all. But for like more independent artists, it really ranges. And I haven't worked in sync in like 4 years. But I remember for TV, if it was just like an MTV show or something on Viacom, you could probably get $500 a pop. If it was something more established, like an HBO or above, you could probably get away with like $2,000, $2,500 a pop. Film, we would usually do maybe $5,000 and up. Video games, probably around the same thing, maybe $7,000 and up. And then for the small things, the UGC, we call them micro licenses. Those can range, it depends. So sometimes you might do a micro license for $10. Sometimes you might do it for $250. Sometimes you might do it for a major brand for in the thousands. So those are just, it ranges depending on what you're doing. Yeah, that's one of the factors. The terms, how long you're using it for, where it's airing, all of that factors in.
I asked you to do that because money makes it real. So now you have a sense of all the revenue streams that you're not capitalizing. All the possibilities. These are just some, but yes.
Next question.
Question.
Yeah, question. Like three parts. One of the things that I think impede the Jamaica music industry, so-called industry, is the lack of live venues around town, you know. I heard that back in the 40s, coming up to maybe 70s, a lot of live venues were around town, and that's where a lot of the talents were spotted. Secondly, corporate Jamaican government funding for the arts, you know. In other countries, artists going on tour get support and, you know, enough good things. And thirdly, Dr. Naya, I've always wanted to know what is like those entertainment management or reggae studies. You mentioned internship or stuff like that, apprenticeship. Now we might be seeking management. Do they really have students coming out as like want to be managed, you know? And how can we tap into such, you know? Basically.
So let me, the first one was live entertainment venues. The second one was, okay, so public-private partnerships, corporate funding there. And this last one is related to the Reggae Studies Unit, Institute of Caribbean Studies. So I'll answer the last one first, because it's directly related to the work I do every day. The Institute of Caribbean Studies at the University of the West Indies in the Faculty of Humanities and Education offers two relevant programs now. One is Entertainment and Cultural Enterprise Management, and the other one, we are going to accept our first cohort of students in September, next month, in the Cultural and Creative Industries major. And that program is patterned directly on the definition of cultural and creative industries. So you can come in and do things related to publishing, things related to media production, things related to music, performing arts, the range. So in the cultural and creative industries major, you have a disciplinary focus that you have to take, and then you have a cluster focus, which is, you know, along the range of the cultural and creative industries. So students, we accept students. This year we're going to be having our largest intake of undergraduate students in the Entertainment and Cultural Enterprise Management major. And so anybody can come and, you know, once you matriculate, clearly the university has a policy of matriculating students who are mature with experience, work experience. You don't have to have CXEs. We can determine, I mean, I'm in a good position because I'm now head of my department, and you obviously have me here, you can come and speak to me. Students can come, and based on your work experience, we say, all right, so these and these and these courses are things we would want you to do. Let's see what your potential is in terms of writing for an exam or reading for a course, and then you proceed. In fact, we have admitted people into the master's program based on experience. I don't know how many of you now know people like Dr. Lantonette Steins. She has completed her PhD in my department, the Institute of Caribbean Studies. She now holds a PhD in Cultural Studies. And based on the work that she has done in terms of developing a dance technique, documenting that is an important thing for people who come after. So even the very work that you've been doing in terms of your own creative work, documenting how you came to be doing that work and what you have produced is an important aspect of the research that we do. There's the other thing, which is you're an established creative worker, an established practitioner. One of the things we're doing in the department as well is to have an artist in residence program, and that's something we're hoping to start in the coming academic year. Dr. Ray Hitchens, I don't know how many of you know him, but he used to teach at Edinburgh College for the Visual and Performing Arts in the days of School of Music, taught people like Jeremy Harding. Ray is also a member of staff in my department and was very instrumental in developing the artist in residence idea. So these are things that we you know, I'm a firm believer in the fact that a university must not exist just for, you know, the production of knowledge sake. The knowledge must have some kind of impact. The university must have, if it doesn't have, create that bridge to the wider society. And this is why I am constantly out in the public. Don't you see me all the time? Sometimes I talk about all kind of things. Them call me enough, I'll say no sometimes. But, you know, I really believe in the fact that academics cannot exist just for academic purposes. You must really be someone contributing to public life and learn. Many persons within academia cannot go out into the public and talk about things related to everyday life because they're just, head up in a cloud. I don't believe in doing that. So the two other points you were asking about, one was live venues. Lord of mercy. I'm going to ask all of the complicated questions them today. This matter of live venues, I mean, for those who know the history of Jamaican music and the Chocomo lawns and where we're coming from, where Kingston was littered with venues, not necessarily, littered with venues, not necessarily those created by the government, but those that persons who were passionate about what they were doing were eking out, creating for themselves. And the book that I've written, Dance Hall from Slave Ship to Ghetto, has a long list of those kinds of venues and how people created venues that, anybody ever thought of why it is these venues were called lawns and them never have no grass? I mean, things like that, I mean, the history that we have, that rich history. But we really need to return, or some would say move forward, to a time when we can depend on public-private partnerships, the government, to facilitate the creation of venues that people can have. I mean, the reggae revival, revivalists, many of them, venues like Jamnesia, they were creating venues and looking actively for spaces. They've, been running into trouble, for example, with the Noise Abatement Act and so on, using venues like the Hope Gardens, public sites. We now have to really look at entertainment zoning, which is a conversation that has been happening over the last, I would say, 4 years. Damian Crawford, former Minister of State in the Ministry of Tourism and Entertainment at the time, was very instrumental in trying to get that conversation going. And so it is now Minister Grange's responsibility to make sure that entertainment zones are in fact approved and that we have not just the venues, but the spaces that these venues can be created in where we don't run into problems with noise abatement and so on. And I think the next thing you are asking about is public-private partnerships, that corporate funding. And I kind of addressed it a little bit in terms of even just banks being able to provide money for, artists to get their craft to a certain level. You don't have to mortgage your house, but there is some kind of collateral that a bank is going to be able to want, right? Have you ever all wondered how banks can post billions in profit in a small country like Jamaica? Anybody ever wonder why? Is anybody, you know why? How? No fees. Them charging the fees that you don't even see sometimes. Those little invisible fees like the 30 cents that them charge when you go use the ATM machine. And so, that's how they post billions in profit. And I actively avoid paying those fees. As you all must avoid paying those fees, because these are the same companies, and I publicly say this every time, they have a prostituting relationship with Jamaica's cultural and creative industries. And we must prevent them from having that kind of relationship with our business, because when them want to advertise themselves on TV, what kind of music them use? Jamaican music, right? And then when you go to them as the creator of that music and say you want a loan, what them tell you? You need collateral and you might not have it, right? But guess what? It is left up to us to organize the business. That's what associations are for. That's what the collecting agencies are for. That's what the ministry is for, to advocate on your behalf. And if they're not advocating on your behalf, you have to hold them accountable.
Question.
Okay, thank you. I want to summarize this. But what I'm about to ask, you've all touched upon it in tiny portions. So I just want to ask a question from anyone on the panel who can help me understand the matter of jingles. You said you did it, Jermaine. I've heard about Sync. I've heard about national companies using your jingles. I've heard about how these are negotiated in advertisements. How does one, what should I say, get remunerations from jingles that are created and evidently used?
Well, I'm not in the jingle business anymore, but the friends of mine who are in it, when I was doing it was just flat fee payment. Yeah, you just get paid once and they just took the jingle. Nowadays though, The friends of mine that are still in it, they're doing it as a license, basically. So what they'll say is like, okay, 30-second jingle, the cost of it is, so we use Jamaican terms, dollars, 150,000 Jamaican dollars, and that is for single usage radio only, and it's for 1 year. For every successive year, you pay an additional 50% of the original cost. If you're going to Radio Plus TV, it's double the 150, so it's 300,000. If it's going to be outside of Jamaica and in the Caribbean, it's another, 25% extra. So they do it on that kind of scale, and that's like how they kind of figure it out. They get remunerated.
How does that affect the creative right when let's just say the station says, the station doesn't claim the right to be the creator, it names the creators, but how is it not, sorry.
Okay, let's just say a jingle is created, for instance, for a radio station or a television station, and they use it evidently regularly, and the station never claimed, actually they named the creators of that music. They name it, and how is it the remuneration done? I mean, it might be something from Stevie Wonder, it might be something from Rihanna, it might be something created locally. How are the creators of such jingles?
I'm not sure what you mean. When I said jingle, I'm referring to
something created specifically to be used.
I'm talking about advertising.
Yeah.
Jingles.
Yeah.
Right. So you wouldn't have Stevie Wonder's music in it. In my example, I'm talking about you're hiring me to make a jingle for Sagicor. I'm going to make a piece of music and I'm going to sing something about Sagicor, and I'm not doing it for the radio station. I'm doing it through an ad agency for Sagicor. Sagicor buys their ad time on the station and gets it aired. So I'm not sure, because you're asking me about...
I'm just saying, all right then, let's just say every morning on morning time you hear Happy Birthday, and it's played by Stevie Wonder. That is recorded somewhere. Let's just say the following year you hear Karamaki goes Linstead Market, and it was written by somebody and played somewhere, but it's evidently used regularly on the station, and the station admits that these are the writers. They will never claim to be the composer of the music. Right. What happens to that creation?
Oh, you're talking about the radio station using
radio and TV
recorded music for programming.
Yeah, it's very similar to a sync license. The radio station would have to license that composition, so they're licensing the original words, lyrics, the melody of that Stevie Wonder song, and so the station pays the publisher that money. Now, the station may also want to use the original Stevie Wonder recording, so they may go to the record company and say, hey, we want to use your recording for this radio advert. Sometimes that's really expensive, and so then when the record company says it's $1 million trillion, the radio station will say, nope, I don't want to pay that, and they will commission a group of artists to sing a recording, a cover song, of the original Stevie Wonder song. And so these artists get together, they record this new recording, and that becomes its own license of that sound recording. So they get paid for that. It's the change of the performers. So it's creating a new record of a composition that already exists.
So we're going to talk about more of this we're going to talk about this more tomorrow, but I suppose just very quickly, if you write a song, there's a copyright in that song. If you make a recording, there's a copyright in the recording. They are two separate copyrights. So if you wrote a song, you own the copyright in it. If you record it, you then own the copyright in the record. We'll talk tomorrow about the technicalities of who owns the recording rights. But if you did it on your own studio equipment, you would own the recording. If I then did a cover version of your song, I made a version of your song, I would own the copyright in the recording because it's my recording, but you would still own the copyright in the song. So whenever my recording made money, some of that money would go to you because it's your song. So if I cover somebody else's song, they don't earn any money from the recording because it's not their recording, it's my recording, but they still earn money from the song because it's still their song. With radio, it would usually go through the collective licensing system, so through Jacap and Jams. If it was an original commission, there might be some direct dealing as well.
You had said that there are some...
We get you to talk on the mic so the people on the stream can hear it. So.
Okay.
you had mentioned that there are these middle people who would do the arrangement of locating these works, and they make the deals or make them available to these persons who need them. And then at the end of the day, the persons who created them, there's a reciprocal, that there's a royalty that goes their way as a creator. Where does that come from?
Oh,
Well,
before
I'll just quickly say also, tomorrow we'll also talk about this. When recordings and songs are used and a royalty is due, sometimes there is a direct deal between whoever owns the copyright and whoever uses the music. And the latter person pays the former person money. And how much money is a deal to be done? So if a brand uses your song in their advert, that would be a direct deal. So if I was Coca-Cola and you were the song, we would do a deal. And you would say, I want $1 million American. And I would say, I've got 50. And then we would do a deal and we would reach somewhere in the middle. Sometimes the collective licensing system comes in. Jacap comes in. So there are certain scenarios where there is no direct deal. The collecting society collects the money and distributes the money. And generally when collective licensing is involved, everyone gets paid the same. So there are standard industry-wide rates. So it doesn't matter if a Sean Paul gets played on the radio or a brand new artist gets played on the radio, they earn the same amount of money because that's a collective license. That's just interesting. Yes, I mean, the challenge of collective licensing is ensuring that we know what music was used and who owns that music. The starting point of that is making sure that your songs are all logged with Jacap with the right songwriter information in it. Yeah.
Question. Greetings, everyone. I'm Java Emmanuel. I work at Best FM and been in radio for quite some time, started out in the States. And I'm going to be a little bit out of the box compared to what has been said, because I'm not an artist. I don't sing, I don't write music. But I think what I have to say is that it can be relevant in many ways to who is here today. And since you folks had touched on the radio, I felt as a radio announcer, why not stand up and give my little two-piece, quote unquote. One of the things I want to say to artists, when they bring a CD to me, when you put it in the computer to play, you don't see the title of the track. You don't see the title of the artist. That's a lot of work to do because the title of the track and the artist is on the CD and you push it in a computer. So I'm appealing to artists when you're recording a CD, make sure your track, the name of the track is on the CD and the name of the artist is on the CD. Okay? Properly identify, because when you get all these CDs, you don't have time for it. You're just gonna overlook it because it's too much work to try and type up the name and the artist and put it in the computer. And then if you try to go to a next computer, you're gonna have to do the same thing over and over again. Another issue I wanted to address when you talk about payola, most of the jocks on radio today don't get paid. And I will never take payola. And reason being, I am passionate about the music. And it's not every music I can play because I have created a format that I'm thinking of the people that I'm trying to reach in my format. So it's not every music that I get I will play in my format because it doesn't fit my format to the audience that I'm trying to reach. So it's very important to me that my first responsibility is to my audience, not to the artist. So I look for music that can fit my format to play in. And so you have to think about the format. In terms of working with the artists, I interview a lot of artists, and they really enjoy the interview because I have that kind of ability in interviewing. And oftentimes they would go and make a drop for me, and we work on relationship. In everything, it's a relationship, how you connect with each people in the industry. And I know these artists, if I'm having a birthday bash or I need a favor for them, I know they'll be more than happy to say, yeah, Java, I'll be there. I'll give you the strength. And that's how we get that mutual exchange. I know I can call on them for favor, and they respect what I'm doing. So I don't even deal with that Payola thing. But it's a reality that you spend so much hours. It's not just going on and playing 3 hours of music. At night, I can't go to sleep because I have a wall full of albums, and I have to be converting them to MP3. Or I have music that people give me, and I'm sieving. And no matter how I create my catalog for my format to play, I'm always sieving. I'm always sieving music because I create my catalog that even if I walk away and put my computer on automatic playing, it would sound like I'm still playing my music because of how I sieve it. So the continuity of one song moving to another song will be so connected. When the music play, you don't feel any turbulence in it. It just flow, flow, and flow. So when we come on the air and do 2 hours or 3 hours, it's a lot more work.
That's going on behind the scenes.
That's going on behind
right.
the scene.
Thank you very much for that.
Yes, you see Usain Bolt run for, 10 seconds, but you don't see the kind of work that he invested into it. So that is very important. And my final question to the panel is, how do you see radio operating in the scheme of things right now? In terms of, now we have the social media. When I started out in radio in 1979, 1980, I was carrying 2 bag of albums to the station during the winter, catching bus while I was on campus. And if somebody requested a song, I would say, well, I'll bring that album for you next week and play it. Now I'm carrying 20, 30,000 music in the palm of my hand on a hard drive.
Right. So let me respond to that. And I think
just let me say this part. I've listened to younger artists, and they said, I'm not paying radio any attention because they don't play my music or they don't want, so they go to social media. So you have a school of thought saying that radio is a dinosaur. It's not carrying the impact as it does in terms of playing music. So I would like the panel to address the relevancy of radio in today's market.
So first of all, thank you so much for your question. I have a blog post. I have a blog. I do write every now and again on that blog, dancehallgeographies.wordpress.com. And one of the things, I got completely fed up of radio in Jamaica. I don't listen to radio in Jamaica unless I'm in my car. And half of the time I'm in my car, I'm listening to the BBC to hear the world news. At the first, I gotta say this publicly. I don't listen to radio in Jamaica no more because there was a point a year and a half ago when me get fed up. You know why? Everybody was playing the same foolishness. Everybody have the same format. Yeah, listen, be sure, say tomorrow I go hear say Sonia Stanley and I did upon some business and music seminar and I said she don't listen to radio in Jamaica no more. Listen, everybody is trying to do the same thing and there's very little that is distinctive about radio. More importantly, me don't want to hear a bag of talking when I listen to radio. If I really, and Jeremy is right, if you want to hear music, you've got to go to a different kind of device or site for consuming music. It's not radio. They are not there to play music. They are there to sell ads. My children who are teenagers do not listen to radio in Jamaica.
I just going back to that, I mean, I can't speak for Jamaican radio, but I can speak for the UK and Europe. I think I'm a passionate fan of radio. That's how I got into music. When I was a teenager in the UK, I loved radio, and through that I became a big music fan.
I think that's...
However, when I talk to teenagers today in the UK, they do not... The radio industry in the UK has lost a generation. They've lost a teenage generation. And it used to be that the radio industry would sit back and say, it's fine. Once they get a car, they'll listen to us in the car because that's where you listen to the radio. But they're losing that because now even cheap cars come, you can put a radio in, USB port, put your phone in. And so I did a panel, I have a conference in the UK and I got a panel of radio people in the UK and I said to them, you've lost a generation, radio is in trouble, and they all disagreed with me and told me everything was fine. So either they're in denial or I'm wrong, but I think radio has to Radio 1, which is the pop station for young people in the UK, is interesting. Because actually, it's a BBC station, so it's state-owned. It doesn't have to worry about adverts. But it's aimed at 16-year-olds. And if you look at what Radio 1 now do, their YouTube channel is more active than what they do on FM.
That's right.
And they've recognized that that's where their audience is.
I just want to say one thing, that on Sundays, my program 68, everybody should listen to it, because why? I do something phenomenal that nobody's doing on radio. I mix reggae to jazz, blues, gospel, African music. I go from reggae to John Lee Hooker. I bring back into Santana. I move all around, and it's very nice and easy to listen to.
And I think it is true.
Yeah.
Although a lot of mainstream radio all over the world is what you were describing, the same 60 songs on a rotation for life.
Mm-hmm.
Although the radio industry will tell you that's what most people want, so that's the problem. However, across the world, there are individual radio shows which are as fantastic as they ever were.
That's
And what's
right.
good about the internet is you don't have to listen to on local radio
And
stations.
finally,
Find the good
folks,
stuff.
finally, I just want you to let you know I'm the author of Reggae Sunsplash. You know, I covered a big history of Reggae Sunsplash. So I just want you to know that as well. Thank you.
Yes. Big up to all the authors in the house. Java Emmanuel has done a splendid work of documenting the history of Sunsplash. I happen to own a copy of that book. Thank you very much, Java. And it's very useful information. The history is important. No, I think we're kind of out of time.
I'm instructed just to receive two more
questions. All right.
Anyway, when it comes to radio, he says radio is a dinosaur. In lots of ways it is. We have found that out. We have proven that already.
That radio is a dinosaur.
Yeah, we stood on a corner by a traffic light, and everybody that came up, we asked, which station you listening to? Which radio? My CD. Which everybody was listening to something else besides radio. And we did that for half a day. And nobody was listening to radio. So I've proven that. That's why we
Thank you very much.
So the people who are thinking about getting ready to play a song, social media.
That's right.
Another question.
Another microphone is over there.
Good evening. Good evening, everyone. My name is Dulcita Brown. I am a new person in the organization. I'm here from 2008, but I'm still new. I'm just gaining some knowledge this evening. About this copyright here, I'm here to ask about when you do the copyrights, you do for you and the promoter, you give him a percentage and you get a percentage, right?
What's a promoter? I don't understand.
Producer. Anyway, when you take a stock, you get to find out that the producer, they don't know him, or the music is a well-selling music overseas, and then there are money that releases to come to you, and then that producer went and collected. What the main question I'm asking, is it right for you, after he's collecting behind your back, it is right for you to still give him the 20 or 25%?
Okay, I'm not sure about the 25% thing, but
Or
I think
50% or
But that's a legal question, though.
what really should take place, and we're going to get into it more tomorrow, the producer owns the copyright in the master recording, but if you're talking about the writer's share, like if you wrote a song, you're talking about writers, right? Okay, so typically in Jamaica, 4 years, you are absolutely correct. The writers and the artists who are the writers and even the musicians have very little knowledge about the copyright which they own in the records. Pay no attention to it, and underhanded producers, in quotes, go and register not only the master, but also register the rest of the rights for themselves as well.
For music which is still selling. The
But
music
th-
is
but-
still selling
and that
out
is
there.
why I said it's a legal question. You need a
Right.
lawyer to deal with that.
Okay, so that's why I'm asking you who can help me about it.
Lawyer.
Well, lawyer, but it starts back at the whole fulcrum of this thing about Jacap, understanding the rights, understanding how to register songs, split sheets when you're making a record in the studio, to look at each other and say, all right, you did the music, I did the lyrics, etc. Therefore, you are 50, I am, you understand what I'm saying? To start at that point, rather than to be coming back years later to be like, oh, this man is collecting my money and, you know what I mean? So it kind of starts from that basis.
So in other words, going forward, you're not going to try to make the same mistake again because you're going to go in the studio and you're going to have the conversation about who is it that owns what aspect of the copyright. But Jeremy's right. What has to happen is seminars like these give you information. You have to educate yourself. And then in the matter that is gone, you need a lawyer.
And it's a good segue into tomorrow because we're going to talk a lot about this
That's
tomorrow.
right.
But it comes back to what I said right at the start, which is when you create a copyright, and every time you write a song, and every time you make a recording, a copyright is created, you need to have a conversation about who owns that copyright and who is sharing in the income. So to answer your question, if someone is still taking 25% of your money 5 years on, if that went to court, the judge would say, well, what did you agree? What was the agreement? Was it 25% forever, or was it 25% for 5 years? And if you didn't actually have that conversation, and if you didn't write down what you agreed, well, that's the only people who benefit from that are lawyers, because that's ambiguous, it's messy, it goes to court, lawyers bill a lot of money, nobody really knows. So the trick is, when you say, okay, I'll give you 25%, two things, you have to do two other things. A good lawyer will always say, 25% is great. 25% of what? Okay, so 25% of what? And then secondly, is this forever or is it for a set period of time? And generally, if you don't put a set period of time into the agreement, then probably the default assumption is it's forever. So if you intend it to be for 5 years or up until $10,000, or then you need to agree that and get it written down. So yes, it all comes back to what did you agree. But a lot more on that tomorrow. Okay, I think our time is up.
Yes, thank you very, very much. Give yourselves a round of applause. We've had a really splendid day. I want to thank the consultants, Jessica, Jeremy, and Chris. Want to thank Jacap again for the brilliant idea and the initiative to get the funding to have us in the comfort of the hotel with no challenges about our bellies, really being very comfortable and learning and sharing in the ways that we have. Thank you very, very much. And see you all tomorrow. Do come back tomorrow. This is a process.
So we start at 9 o'clock tomorrow, is that right?
9 o'clock tomorrow morning, right here.
Yes.